So LIV Golf is part of Saudi Arabia's large-scale investment into sports. It is backed by the kingdom's public investment fund, which seems to have an endless flow of resources. The state of Saudi Arabia has been investing into sports to try to modernize its economy. Critics say it's a way in which the kingdom can whitewash its human rights record. That strategy is known as sports washing. Saudi Arabia, according to U.S. intelligence, was behind the murder of a U.S. resident and Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. There have been other human rights violations in Saudi Arabia, treatment of women, treatment of the LGBTQ plus community, all kinds of things. And going back to 9/11, the 9/11 victims groups hold Saudi Arabia still responsible for the attacks.
When you partner with a country that stands in stark opposition to American ideals and often ranks amongst one of the worst human rights abusers in the world, you aren't just playing golf. You're taking a political stance.
LIV Golf started about a year ago, was the first event. It was announced in March of 2022. Greg Norman, the Golf Hall of Famer, was the CEO. It kicked off last year to much fanfare and criticism because LIV Golf used Saudi Arabia's seemingly endless resources to sign several big-time golf stars from the PGA Tour. Phil Mickelson, Brooks Koepka, Patrick Reed, and others, Dustin Johnson, Bryson DeChambeau. So big names on the PGA Tour fled to LIV Golf. The PGA Tour would say they were traitors in a way, took the money, and the PGA Tour was very critical of the source of the LIV money, which was the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And in a way, they were framing LIV Golf's resources as a sort of blood money, which makes the fact that the PGA Tour is now partnering with LIV Golf that much more shocking. LIV Golf, it seemed, offered millions and millions of dollars. So for example, reportedly Rory McIlroy might have turned down something like $500 million to join LIV Golf. Tiger Woods was reportedly offered, I believe, in the $700 million range. This is all kind of secondhand reporting speculation, but the bottom line is there's no doubt that LIV Golf offered eye-popping sums of money. You know, the PGA's reaction was aggression when LIV Golf started. They saw LIV Golf as the enemy. Lawsuits were filed against LIV Golf. Almost a year to the day that this merger was announced, PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan did an interview on CBS Sports with Jim Nantz, basically calling out the source of LIV Golf's funds, the Saudi Arabian state.
I would ask, any player that has left or any player that would ever consider leaving, have you ever had to apologize for being a member of the PGA Tour?
Almost a year later, he has changed his tune when, again, he is now welcoming Saudi money into the PGA Tour fold.
This ultimately is a decision that I think is in the best interest of all of the members of the PGA Tour.
The player reaction was complete surprise and shock, and they were stunned that the PGA Tour, which is supposed to represent professional players, did not clue any professional players into what was going on.
The people that left the PGA Tour irreparably harmed this tour, started litigation against it. Like, we can't just welcome them back in. Like, that's not going to happen. I still hate LIV. Like, I hate LIV. Like, I hope it goes away.
The incentives for both organizations for this partnership. Let's start with the PGA Tour. It's money. It's a huge revenue source. You know, if LIV Golf is offering Rory McIlroy and Tiger Woods and all these players hundreds of millions of dollars to join their tour, that money can now flow into the overall PGA umbrella and make the game, in theory, more attractive to players, maybe do some different experimentations with tournaments. Another incentive is the PGA Tour seemingly will get its players back. Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson, they will be back in the fold.
Can I get a selfie, Phil?
The PGA Tour gets a lot of money and gets its players back. So you can understand why they would do this. The PGA Tour sort of eliminates the competition here. LIV Golf and the Saudi Investment Fund gets to keep its power in the game. The release makes clear that the Saudi decision makers have first dibs on capital investments. The whole point of this was Saudi Arabia using its resources to diversify its economy, get return on its sports investments, and be a global player in sports. Saudi Arabian cash is in golf to stay and is in global sports to stay. Taking all the ethical things aside, if you're a pure golf fan and all you care about is seeing entertaining golf week to week, it stands to reason that this can be a good thing. That more money coming into the game, perhaps more innovation, players back in playing against each other. So from a purely golf point of view, it does no doubt have some upside, and you can see why the stakeholders made this decision. The question is now, after a year of criticizing LIV Golf, criticizing the state of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for past sins, you're in a marriage with Saudi Arabia, and how do you handle that ethically and morally? The bottom line is memories tend to be short, and people like their sports, and sports washing is a thing, but who's going to not watch golf because of it? When LIV Golf merges with the PGA Tour, it's the sovereign wealth fund of a foreign entity with a questionable human rights record. That's never happened before. American sports has never had to really grapple with that, and it'll be really interesting to see how American sports grapples with this very convoluted, complicated, geopolitically tense issue.